it's never about the little thing. There are things underneath. It's often because your cup is getting full, and then you start getting, like that levels of irritability, and you just feel out of balance. For example, there is the hyper independence that leads to that. It's people that, oh no, I can handle, but then again your cup is getting full and you are not asking for help until the point that you collapse. There are so many techniques and they are very helpful, but ultimately you need to process your emotions because the nervous system reacts simultaneously, immediately.
Could you explain the connection between the nervous system and the chronic symptoms that can come up?
Stress has become such a normal part of my life that I actually don't know what it would be like not to be stressed anymore, to be honest with you. We'll be back in 10 seconds to continue our conversation with Marta, a chronic pain specialist from Brazil. This is a part 2 of a part 3 series, so don't forget to subscribe and follow so you never miss out on conversations just like this, as well as our professional insight in the employment market and support and career development in Australia.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Career Reshaped. I'm Natasha.
And I'm Pauline.
And today we have Marta Faria with us. She is a certified somatic symptom and chronic pain specialist and the creator of the 12-week Revive and Thrive program, a nervous system-centered framework that helps high-achieving professionals resolve stress-related symptoms like burnout, IBS, fatigue, migraines, and chronic pain. Marta now supports clients worldwide to rewire their nervous system, restore resilience, and reclaim joy in their lives.
Something that you said about that it's the mind though, like so you could, with the Reiki, your body can feel great, but then the mind does eventually take over. I think people underestimate how powerful the mind actually is. And I know quite a few different stories where the mind has been able to heal people but also be other people's demise. Where if they believe something so strongly, the mind literally makes it happen in their body. I heard this one story with a nurse was being interviewed and they asked her, what is your most crazy sort of experience? And she said, well, it's how powerful the mind is. She said she had this patient come and he was a young man, maybe in his 30s, and he found out that he had cancer. She said, but it was a really easy, treatable cancer. He was going to be fine. They had a procedure booked in for the following week. They're going to remove it. It was not going to be a problem for him. But he started panicking, and he turned to his wife, going to die. And she turned to him, she said, you're not going to die. You caught it at the right time. Cleaned it many times before, you'll be fine. Anyway, his appointment comes and he doesn't show up. And she's like, where is he? What happened? Did he reschedule? I said, no, he passed away over the weekend. Because he believed so much so that he was going to die, that he died, and she was shocked. And to her, that was her confirmation about how powerful the mind really is.
Absolutely. In healing, absolutely. We have the placebo to prove that, right? The sugar pill that does wonders. And also what you were describing is what is called the nocebo, when we start to believe. So for example, some people might be living with cancer for quite a while when they are not aware that they have cancer. So life goes on and everything. Once there is a diagnosis, many people, the disease progresses so rapidly because, we've been told that it's a terminal illness that is threatening. So if you believe that because you have cancer, you are going to die, you will probably accelerate the process, which, is hard to say that to people because, it's obviously it's not our fault. Yeah. But if you believe, then here we go.
Yeah, you hear something, you freak out. But did you hear about the story about the man that forgot to die?
Not this one, but I've heard similar stories to that. Someone that really believes in the medication and that works, but then after a while it was in the newspaper that the medication was actually not that effective, and that completely reversed back into the disease. There are some experiments. There's even a one that it was a surgery that was a placebo, right? So they took 4 patients with a knee problem and they performed surgery in all of them. But one of them, without knowing, had a fake surgery. So what they did, they, cut the knee as if the surgery was being performed, but nothing was done. And the result afterwards is that all patients had the same results. The patient who had the placebo surgery recovered as well as the other ones who had the actual surgery.
Crazy. You mentioned a few of the things that you do already. You mentioned hypnosis and the breathing and everything. So what makes your 12-week program effective when all the other techniques separately don't go well or not as effective?
As I said before, I don't like to say that other techniques are less effective. I believe they all play a role. What I did is that, I myself, I had chronic IBS, chronic interstitial cystitis. I struggled with fibroids. So I actually had a lot of problems here in the pelvic floor. So I took the things that helped me heal, but it was a process that was in 5 years. So I was like, okay, how can I make that shorter? What are the steps? And that's when I start to go, okay, different therapies, they work in different aspects of our being, of our psyche. So I want to put them together. So I remember when I trained as a cognitive hypnotherapist, I was like, okay, this is very effective and this is brilliant, but doesn't address the body, doesn't address, those emotions, this tension that is in the body. So that's when I went to study the somatic practices and learn more about the nervous system. And then I studied energy medicine, which is, all rooted in Chinese medicine. So here you work with the energies, you work with the meridians, you restore balance to your organs. So I put a program that has different types of therapies, and it's all customizable according to that person's needs. So it kind of moves the needle a lot faster. And I feel if within that, then there is always the therapist. And, if I would say something about me, I'm really good at spotting the hidden patterns quick. And that makes it easy for you to shift. So, for example, when you say, I'm very stressed, I'm like, okay, let's investigate that. So instead of, doing talking therapy for a year, quickly we get, okay, is it coming from your parents? Is it coming from a trauma that you experienced? What is going on there? And once you realize what is going on, then you have this opportunity to process and let go. So it's a combination of techniques that were designed to accelerate the healing journey.
So with your program, I guess when, it probably is all different times, but when do you usually see a breakthrough moment come through in a client? And can you tell us a little bit of what that looks like?
I feel like on the first session, when I really investigate and ask a lot of questions, sometimes the person is like, wow, I hadn't realized that. So, for example, very recently I worked with a girl. So she was experiencing chronic pain for 20 years. She had an accident when she was very young. So from time to time, her back would just lock, and she would have to be taken to hospital, and it was horrible. And she was very self-aware. She had done quite a few therapies before, and it was great to work with her. And in fact, I prefer to work with people that have done some therapy before because they are more self-aware and it works better. So I was like, okay, let's trace back, the worst flares that you had. And then she hadn't realized, but she was flaring, especially when she was dating, and it was something significant for her. And then when, it's like, okay, let's dig deeper and let's go deeper. So that was when she was dating, there was a fear of being abandoned that was coming from her dad, not abandoning her, but they got divorced, her parents got divorced, and her dad found a girlfriend who was Japanese. So he started to go to Japan and spend a few months there. And that made her feel really lonely. And so she would never link the dots. And once there are those realizations, it's often like, oh, wow, I never thought this was related. And as you begin to release, that especially pain is a very subjective experience. There is always an emotional component to pain, and people don't know that because it feels so physical. But even when there is injury, there is always an emotional component. And chronic pain, if it's over a year, it's somatic, always. When you go, obviously you need to go to the doctor, But if you go and you have a clean exam and they go listen, there is nothing wrong with you, right? But you keep experiencing pain, that it's a somatic process that comes from your, and it's so the brain learns pain as well. So for example, if you learn that, like making a certain movement causes you pain because perhaps you had an injury and it was physical and that caused you to feel pain, but you got so used to expect that kind of pain that the expectation of the pain creates the pain itself. So it's not to say that it's all in your head because you are not consciously creating it, but you can also train your brain to unlearn that, and then you can move out of pain. I've had cases with pain that I doubted myself. I was like, oh, this girl was one of them. I'm like 20 years of chronic pain post-accident, I'm not sure about that, but it was amazing. In her words, she's like, I'm 90% better and I had tried so many things. She gave me a video testimonial. She even cries. She's like, it's great. I don't have pain anymore.
Wow.
That's amazing because I know quite a few people that have chronic pain and they're young. Like I say young, in their early 40s. That's young because if you think about it, they're still got a whole half or more of life to live. And they're in so much pain that it actually is debilitating. They can't do things like everyday things, and I always worry for them because I'm thinking, well, if you can't do everyday things now at 40, what's going to happen when you're 60? It's concerning. And again, with one person I know, they go to the doctors and they do like scans, like it doesn't look that bad. There's actually nothing more we can do for you. There's no more fixes to be done.
Well, it's not just that, it's also when you're in constant pain, you don't look like you're in constant pain anymore because you just are, and you learn to be with it. So when you tell a doctor you're in pain and they say, how painful is it? And you say, well, right now I want to rip my spine out of my back, but you don't look like it. So they just don't believe you, or they don't think much of it. Like when I was 12, I was told that I'll have chronic tension in my back and that is it. Do some stretches. So I've had pain since I can remember, and except for 3 days. And it was only relevant because when the pain came back is when I realized, I hadn't been in pain for 3 days. And that was doing a lot of work. I had osteo and I was doing acupuncture as well. And I don't know, then it just 3 days. That was nice.
Yeah, it's always good to try those techniques because sometimes, you just need to stretch your body. People who do yoga, who do Pilates, it's very good. And that alone can sort your problems. If you are in the computer all day and you are tensing, like the shoulders, sometimes if you do yoga or physio, it's going to get, or acupuncture, it's going to get better. But when those things don't really work anymore and you are still in pain, and especially for pain that comes and go. So for example, some days I don't feel, but some days it returns, that is a clear sign that it's now you have to
maybe you and I will have a little session after this and you can cure me.
Well, listen.
So you mentioned about, you're like, 20 years, I don't even know if this is going to work. So what happens, if you come across someone that doesn't believe it's going to work, but then it does? So like they don't, because I remember we were talking about mind over matter, like the belief, and they're working with you like, I don't think this is going to work, but then it does. Has that ever happened?
No, because the person who works with me believes, or is at least starting to believe. The person who doesn't believe, they don't get near me. They are, they are the people who look and that, some people still perceive those things as a bit woo. So now it's, I feel like everyone that works with somatic healing, we are bringing the science, the neuroscience around it. So I feel like the very skeptical people, they are not my people. They don't come to work with me. So what I'm doing is also like educating people, and explaining those concepts, because with the chronic pain, I remember when I did my course in pain science, it blew my mind. I didn't know all of those things. And it's like, wow, people need to know that. Yeah. So I feel sometimes the doubt comes more from myself, like some people, sometimes I look at them like, ooh, I'm not sure what is going to happen here. But people do get better. It always happens. Obviously, some people improve more than others because, again, it's a journey. I feel that the people who have the best results with me are people who actually have done therapy before. And again, it's not because the other therapies didn't work. On the contrary, they worked because now they are ready for another layer. Yes.